Hey guys, it's Nanomachines. We're taking a look at another deck profile for the Transformers trading card game, and today we're going to be taking a look at tanks. Now, tanks play all tanks, if you couldn't tell from the title. They all can take advantage of tank-exclusive cards, and is arguably the best archetype that I have built right now. It's certainly my favorite. That's one of my of like the 4 archetypes I have built. It plays Megatron, Demolisher, and of course Darkmount. And we're going to be going in depth on each of them and what they bring to the list in just a moment. Coming up first, we have Megatron. Megatron isn't exactly the strongest member of your group, oddly enough. He's certainly not the bulkiest, but what he does have are very good abilities that you'll be taking advantage of a lot. Tanks is all about that war of attrition. You're going to be taking negligible damage, and you're going to be dealing somewhat negligible damage on your own. You won't be hitting for any high numbers with this deck. That's something you should really think about, is what you want to do in terms of damage. And tanks won't be doing a lot of damage, but they will certainly be punishing other lists that won't be doing a lot of damage either, like cars and stuff like that. Megatron himself, though, has the great ability of being able to scrap a card off of your opponent's field, an upgrade. And he also has Pierce 3 in his robot mode, which can deal a hefty amount of damage when needed. His stats aren't that great, but he's integral to the list because he is a tank. Perhaps my favorite out of all of these is Demolisher. Now, Demolisher, he's the lowest point cost of all of them, coming in at like 6 points. Now, Demolisher, though, he's very unique in that he's both your draw power and also your milling power. Now, if you know in the Transformers card game, you mill your deck in order to deal damage and, of course, mess with your discard pile a lot. Demolisher, of course, won't be doing a lot of damage because he has a solid 0 attack. But Demolisher has the unique ability to discard the top card of your deck for every defense that he has, and coming at a frankly disgusting defense 4, you know, you're not going to take a lot of damage at all, and you're going to be milling a lot of cards from your deck, which is very important for a very good reason, which I'm going to be getting into in just a moment. Now, my second favorite card out of this list is Darkmount. Darkmount, for us G1ers out there, he's Straxus, but Darkmount has one of the bulkiest cards I have ever seen in this game. He's very expensive, coming in at 9 points. Well, he's kind of average expense, but anyway. But he has some of the most versatile abilities as part of this game that I've seen thus far. He has a great ability that when you flip to his vehicle mode, you get to deal indirect damage, like a plasma burst. You get to do just 2 damage, just wherever you want. You can say, alright, you can finish this guy off or set up damage for another knockout. He does indirect damage, and in this game, that's fantastic. But that's not why he's good. No. He's good because of his robot mode, which has 5 defense, not 5, actually no, 5 defense against anyone who's ranged. That's insane. There's a ton of ranged guys in this game. And even then, 3 defense is nothing to sneeze at. 5 defense, though, pretty much means you're going to be taking 0 damage on most attacks coming your way, especially when you have an armor on him. This guy is invincible. You just won't make any headway in this list if you don't have Pierce, is what I'm saying. He also has a very quite damaging attack stat, coming in at 5. He's going to be your main damage output for the list, but make no mistake, Darkmount is invincible. Now, with this strategy, though, you're going to be wanting to attack the Demolisher first. Now, I realize you're thinking, he has 0 attack. That's a variable. I don't like variables. Give me something that has Pierce or something that's confirmed damage. Demolisher is very important for this list because he's going to be milling the top 10 cards of your deck and putting some very important armor cards in your discard pile. Now, why is that important? It's important because of a card called Hunker Down. Hunker Down is one of those tank exclusive cards. You obviously play 3 of these because it's broken. Right? This card is fantastic. When you play it, you can flip all of your tanks to their vehicle modes. And then you get to attach an armor from your discard pile to your tanks for free. That's absurd. And remember, all of these tanks have an ability that happens when you flip to their vehicle mode. Megatron discards an upgrade on your opponent's field. Darkmount does 2 damage for free. Demolisher draws a card for each of your other tanks. Hunker Down is the most important card in this list, and honestly, it's one of the most important cards I've seen in any list. But that's not all of the cards that are exclusive for tanks. One of the most interesting cards, I could say, out of this list is Crushing Treads. Crushing Treads, you can only put it on tanks, but it gives them Pierce equal to their defense stats. Now this makes Demolisher a little more consistent in the damage he does, but it also gives Darkmount a quite hefty damage output. Megatron himself also already has Pierce built into his kit. If you attach a Crushing Treads to him, he's going to be doing a lot of confirmed damage to your opponent. And again, this is giving you Pierce equal to your defense stat, which means armor, which increases your defense, also increases your Pierce. This card is a very, very interesting card for this list, and I can't imagine me making a tanks list without that card in it. Another thing that's fantastic for this list is Scrapper Gauntlets. Scrapper Gauntlets are one of the more versatile cards in this card game because it is an armor that can scrap some of your opponent's weapons when you attach it. Usually just giving yourself +1 armor is not that great, but when you do it and you can scrap a weapon on your opponent's field, like an Energon Axe or another pesky weapon like a Power Sword or something, your opponent's going to be hating that. But if you can't discard one of their upgrades, both this and Drill Arms, another card I'm about to get to, draw a card if you can't discard a card with them. So they're never a dead card in your hand, is basically what I'm saying. And the more armor you play in the deck, the more you can attach with Hunker Down. The more consistent you can get that out as well. Speaking of Drill Arms is my favorite card out of this card game, pretty much. It's that good. Drill Arms is a weapon that only gives you +1 attack. Sure, that's measly. Who cares about that? But the real juice about this card is when you attach it, you get to scrap an enemy armor. And scrapping an enemy armor is way more important than scrapping a weapon. Scrapping an armor means you can get rid of force field when you're about to do an absurd amount of damage. And if you can't scrap an armor, of course, like our good friend the Scrapper Gauntlets, Drill Arms also can draw you a card. And again, because this is an armor, the Scrapper Gauntlets, you can attach them from the discard pile with the Hunker Down and still get their effects. All of these things, you can, if you have anything to accelerate upgrades, you can still take advantage of their effects as much as you like. The final card I'd like to get to is Blast Shield. Blast Shield is sort of the analog to Grenade Launcher in that it discards after you've been attacked. Blast Shield is fantastic for this list because it gives you +2 defense. That is a ludicrous number. Especially on Darkmount, who can have 5 base defense. Attaching a Blast Shield to him increases that defense to 7. No one will be damaging you when you have a Blast Shield on Darkmount. It's just impossible. And you can also reuse them after you've been attacked by using Hunker Down as well. It's a fantastic card for this fantastic list. And it's definitely worth playing in any tank list. Now, as a possible inclusion, I would probably put in shock absorbers in this list if I could find room. Now, again, in this card game, there's a card minimum, but generally speaking, the more cards you add to a deck, you're not going to be able to draw into them as easily. So, I would probably end up cutting something out like maybe the Scrapper Gauntlets if you really wanted to for the shock absorbers, because they can give you a potential extra defense when otherwise you wouldn't normally have that. But you don't really need it. If you have those blast shields on you, you're just going to live no matter what you do. Another potential card that I would put in this list is Force Field. Force Field is one of those cards that pretty much belongs in every deck, but this is an exception. Your opponent is almost never going to be doing more than 4 damage to you in the first place, since you have such high defense on all of your cards. When it comes to Force Field, usually these low defense decks, like cars or even planes to some extent, would need these force fields to stay alive, which is why Drill Arms is so powerful, because you can discard the force fields before you attack. But Force Field, I don't think really has too much place in this list because of your high defense. It would just kind of be redundant. In terms of matchups, I would say that anything with a low attack with no pierce will just be a cakewalk for you. You just, like, Insecticons is a fantastic matchup. Cars, to some degree, without Bumblebee and Matrix of Leadership in there, you're just going to WM1 and just wipe their board. They just can't beat you. And pretty much anything, as a rule of thumb, that can't beat your defense can't beat you. Now, things that can beat your defense or get around your defense, like planes, Matrix of Leadership decks, and in some cases the Mirror, that's going to be kind of tough. Planes also do indirect damage. They can get around your high defense stats. You should always watch out for that kind of thing, because you don't play any healing. It's not worth it usually, but when you do need it, you're going to want it. Thank you for watching my deck profile on my tank deck. Please check out my other videos on my channel. I do other deck profiles, I do video games, I do pretty much anything you might want. And without further ado, this is Nanomachines, signing off. I don't know what this is. Comstock's eyeball? Am I Rocket Raccoon? Did I just steal this guy's eyeball? Stick his eyeball in the gun? Comstock's broom. So I steal this old man's eyeball and his broom, and I stick him on my guns?